let's look at the new device unijunction transistor. In the previous class we discussed silicon controlled rectifier. In this class we shall discuss unijunction transistor, which is labeled as UJT shortly. And this device has got negative resistance characteristics. Due to that, this device can be called as a negative resistance device. Once I plot voltage current characteristics for this device, you will come to know that where this device exhibits negative resistance, and because of that negative resistance in the characteristics, this device is called as negative resistance device. And the commercially available device is going to be, the number is 2N2646, the silicon unijunction transistor. This is going to be commercially available in the market. If you want to purchase this UJT, many people don't know the UJT, so it's conventionally this number has been given. Like in a diode we have a 1DN4007 using in package. Similar to that in UJT we have 2N2646, which is commercially available. This is a current control device. Okay. We have different kind of the voltage control devices, but here this device UJT controls the current flow through the two terminals. Basically, if you look at first, before going to the characteristics of UJT, let's look at the construction. How to construct this UJT? This is the construction diagram of unijunction transistor, which you can see here in this diagram. In the construction diagram, there is the emitter terminal which is attached to the P-type. This is going to be heavily doped. I want to mention this region is heavily doped. Okay. There are two regions you can see here. One is P-type semiconductor layer, which is heavily doped. Another one is going to be N-type silicon bar, which is lightly doped. Okay. This is going to be lightly doped, and this forms which is P-type, which is heavily doped. And you can see there is a junction formation between P and N. This junction is called as a P-N junction. But whenever there is an interface between P-type semiconductor and N-type semiconductor, there is a junction formation. As you can see here, there is a small empty space here. This is nothing but depletion width. So this empty space is nothing but depletion width. When you don't apply any voltage, okay, between base 2 and as well as base 1 and as well as emitter, there is no, the voltage. There is a small amount of voltage here across this junction. That is called as depletion. That is depletion. And you can see here we have taken how to make this unijunction transistor. Take N-type silicon bar lightly doped and diffuse the P-type charge carriers of heavily doped. This forms the one junction. That's why it is called as unijunction transistor. You won't find the two junctions. And also look at this. This junction is this emitter junction is, or you can say PN junction is close to the base of B2 terminal. Okay. And this is little bit in our diagram also indicate in such a way that this junction should be close to the base of B2 terminal. So due to that, resistance. If you look at equivalent circuit, this is going to be equivalent circuit of this unijunction transistor. Circuit symbol, which you can see here, the arrow mark is bent towards base B1. Okay. So this will explain it when I go to the characteristics. Why the arrow mark has been bent towards base B1? Because normally current flows to the emitter to the base 1. Current will not flow from emitter to the base B. Due to that, the arrow mark has been bent towards the base B1. Okay. Normally we apply voltage between emitter and base. Okay. And this, whatever the control we have here. Okay, this is the one which controls the current movement from base B2 to the base B1 terminals. This device has got two bases. One is labeled as base B1, another one is labeled as B2 base. Okay. And again here, this channel, as we already studied, that any N-type semiconductor or P-type semiconductor act like a resistor. If you have a semiconductor block like this, purely an N-type, if you connect it two terminals to this, or semiconductor of P-type, these two elements behaves like a resistor. Similarly, you can observe here the pure N-type semiconductor. When you make the current to flow through this, definitely it behaves like a N-type resistor. Since the channel area is going to be of N-type. Okay. and a current flow from this base B2 to the base B1, as this behaves like a resistor, and that is controlled by the emitter junction here. We'll see that how this can be controlled. Any questions about this circuit symbol? Because every time you cannot write the construction when you draw the circuits. The easiest way is going to be, we can indicate unijunction transistor with the circuit symbol like this. This symbol is almost looks like a MOSFET symbol, but only thing is we have an arrow mark which is bent. If you don't bend this arrow mark, this symbol becomes a MOSFET, which we are studying in the next unit, MOSFET. So make sure that arrow mark must be bent. That is towards the base B1 transistor. Let's go back to the equivalent circuit here. Okay. Once you know the construction and circuit symbol is explained, we can turn to the equivalent circuit. How this equivalent circuit has been drawn? This circuit has been drawn based on this device. The internal, the elements, various elements which you can see the internal to the construction. Which you can see here. There is a diode here, which represents the PN junction here. That is indicated with this particular diode. Now, of course, we have an emitter terminal which is same as this, and between emitter to the N type we have a junction, PN junction, which is shown here as a diode. And look at other two resistors here, RBB1, which we indicate as RBB2 here and RBB1. And among these two resistors, RBB1 is made as variable because this resistance is decided by the current flow from the emitter to the base B1 terminal. Due to that, this is made as a variable resistor. What is RBB2 and RBB1? It is nothing but the resistance offered by this complete, the N-type semiconductor material, okay, which you can see here in this construction, and you can link with the equivalent circuit. RBB2 corresponds to the resistance between this PN junction to the base B2. In between this layer, whatever the resistance offered, that is shown as RBB2. And similarly, the resistance offered between this PN junction and the base B1, okay, this complete material, whatever resistance offers to the current flow, that is shown as RBB1. So based on the device construction, this equivalent circuit has been drawn. And if you understand equivalent circuit properly, it's very easy to understand the characteristics of unijunction transistor. So unijunction transistor has got numerous applications. We will discuss one by one. At least we discuss in our class today with one of the application of unijunction transistor, where this can be used as an oscillator. You have already studied relaxation oscillator in the laboratory, which is op-amp as a relaxation oscillator, which is experiment number 5. Remember that. Okay, which is here we are studying with respect to UJT as a relaxation oscillator, but in laboratory we have op-amp as a relaxation oscillator. But major circuit operation remains same. Okay, circuit only thing is we replace op-amp by the UJT. That's all. Any questions about this construction? All of you understood how to construct this unijunction transistor? Yes, there is only one junction. That's all. There is a channel is of N type, and there is a P type semiconductor which is heavily doped. Between the P and N, there forms a diode here. Okay, this this particular diode is nothing but having a single junction. This will control the current movement from base B2 to the base B1 terminal. Take a N type semiconductor material and diffuse with heavily P type semiconductor material, that forms a unijunction transistor. This is going to be commercially available device. Okay. Circuit symbol is here. Equivalent circuit is here. This equivalent circuit has been drawn from the device construction. So having this, the basic information of unijunction transistor, we can construct the, we can explain the working principle of unijunction transistor with the help of characteristics. Let's draw the characteristics of unijunction transistor and try to explain the voltage current characteristics of unijunction transistor. Take up operating principle. The operating principle is explained with the help of this circuit. See this electrical circuit for determining the input characteristics of UJT. Again, in the electrical equivalent circuit, we have made use of this circuit, the equivalent circuit at an UJT, which consists of RBB2, RBB1 as the base resistance. This are called as RBB is called as generally interface resistance. That means across the base terminals of UJT, resistance offered is indicated as RBB1 and as well as RBB2. And this is already, you can see the equivalent circuit, PN junction. This is the junction between P and N type semiconductor. And of course, there is a cutting voltage drop across this, which is typically 0.7 ohms for semiconductor. You can see there is a power supply has been used here to draw the electrical characteristics of UJT, which is labeled as BE, emitter power supply. And we need another power supply which is labeled as BBB, base power supply. So these are the two power supplies needed to draw this BE characteristics of UJT. You can see here again the voltage drop across this can be calculated by applying voltage division rule. And before that, let me explain a parameter called as intrinsic standoff ratio. Intrinsic standoff ratio is nothing but it's a ratio of the resistance RBB1 across the base resistance B1 divided by sum of the resistances. And this has been obtained by making IE as 0. if the emitter current whatever is going through the emitter terminal, making that as 0, whatever the resistance, its ratio of resistance RBB1 divided by sum of the resistance across the faces. That ratio is called as intrinsic standoff ratio. This varies from 0.6 to 0.8 in general, but typical value is going to be around 0.7. We'll assume for our calculation purpose. But normally its value ranges from 0.6 to 0.8. You will take in between that 0.6 to 0.8, which is of course 0.7. So eta, this is called as eta, which is nothing but intrinsic standoff ratio. This is used in solving problems. You need to solve one problem based on this union transistor. Sometimes an examiner they will give you the values of resistor values where you can calculate eta. And vice versa also, sometimes the eta may be given and any one of these resistance can be given, and you can calculate other resistances using this formula. So that eta plays an important role. So to calculate the voltage across this, you can apply voltage division rule. How do you apply voltage division rule? Voltage across this is given by supply voltage times this resistance divided by sum of these resistances. Okay, so that's going to be the voltage across this particular terminal. Let me indicate voltage across eta VBB, that is labeled as eta VBB. Okay, already we know eta is nothing but its ratio of resistances. Let me write here the voltage across this is given by, let me say V RBB1, which is equal to, what is V RBB1? The voltage across resistor RBB1 is given by, you can apply voltage division rule. So this is nothing but supply voltage times this resistance. So supply voltage is VBB times this resistance, which is nothing but RBB1 divided by sum of these two resistances. So which is nothing but RBB1 plus RBB2. Can we make use of eta in this case? Voltage across this is nothing but RBB1 divided by RBB1 plus RBB2. This can be called as eta. So this becomes eta times VBB. Do you understand this? How you obtain voltage across RBB1 as eta times VBB? The same thing we have done here, eta times VBB. So voltage across this is nothing but eta times VBB. This is obtained by applying voltage division. So why this voltage is important for us? Because from this only we are going to explain the characteristics or working principle of this unit junction transistor. Any questions about this? How you obtain this voltage across this RBB1? Simple voltage division rule. Why we need to understand this is because this diode here, present here, okay, can be forward biased or reverse biased based on this voltage, because you must know the voltage at another terminal, so that I can come to know that what voltage I must apply here, so that this diode becomes a forward bias. So based on this forward biasing or reverse biasing, this I can control the current movement from this base terminal B2 to the base terminal B1. That's how this device operates. You understand this? Basically, this is called as a current control device. You are going to control the current by applying the voltage PE, emitter voltage. How that is going to be controlled? You can see that there is a diode here. This can be based on this voltage, whatever you apply here, this can be forward bias or this can be reverse bias. So two bias conditions can happen here. But before you forward bias or reverse bias this, you must know what is the voltage at this point. Because normally if you forget about all this rest of the circuit and take this particular diode itself, voltage at this point, if it is more than the voltage at this point, obviously it will be reverse bias. Take an example of like this diode. Suppose if I apply 3 volts here and 2 volts here, reverse bias. If it is applied 2 volts here and 3 volts here, for reverse it's a power bias. Same thing apply even if you go for negative also, the condition is same. Suppose if I apply here, they go don't have common sense. Minus 3 here, 5 here, again power bias. See negative voltage here. So still it is power bias here. But we are not going to check out here negative voltage here. But look at here, we already the voltage at this point, which is nothing but because already this point is at ground. So voltage at this point must be equal to this. So which is nothing but eta VBB. Now question rises now here. What voltage you must apply here from the supply so that this diode is power bias? You understand my question here? What voltage I must apply here so that this diode is reverse forward biased? First let us take condition of forward bias. Look at the condition now. If I consider the voltage here, also don't forget that there is a diode voltage drop here as V gamma, which is nothing but cutting voltage of diode. So let us see that sum of this voltage plus this voltage becomes that we call as Vp, which is equal to eta times Vpp plus V gamma. Understand this? What is Vp meaning? Sum of this voltage plus this voltage. Sum of this voltage and this voltage is indicated as Vp, peak voltage. You understand this peak voltage? Okay. You just sum of this voltage and this voltage because the Vp is important for us. Based on the Vp, I can decide what voltage I must apply here. Now see your question now. I have two conditions here. Condition number one is, suppose if Vp or you can say VEE, emitter power supply, is less than Vp. What will be the condition of a diode? Second choice. Second choice is if emitter power supply VEE, if it is larger than Vp. See the diode condition in this case and diode condition in this case. First case, if emitter power supply is less than Vp, that means voltage at this point is lesser than the, you must consider this drop also. Don't ignore the voltage drop across diode. So this drop plus this drop is nothing but which will indicate as eta Vpp plus V gamma. Now if emitter power supply is less than Vp means obviously diode is reverse bias. Diode is reverse bias. Diode is not conductor. When the diode is reverse biased, there will be some minority charge carriers which will keep on flowing. Okay. Small amount of current. That current is called as leakage current. That's why you get small curve here. So this is nothing but a leakage current which is flowing. This amount of quantity. Okay. This this bit here that tells you the amount of leakage current. It's nothing but leakage current. Look at this curve is going to be something peculiar when you compare with other diode characteristics curves, because in this curve, x-axis is the current, y-axis is going to be the voltage. But normally in any other device, the characteristics, you will find x-axis as the voltage and y-axis as the current. But in this uni-junction transistor, we draw by taking x-axis as the current and y-axis as the voltage. Look at now, as you increase, as your voltage is very less than the Vp, Vp is here somewhere. This Vp is nothing but this V gamma plus this eta Vp. That means my voltage, I am increasing my voltage up to here until my emitter voltage reaches Vp. You can see that amount of leakage current. That means I am going in this direction. The leakage current keeps on decreasing, right? You can see here the leakage current here. Large leakage current is there. Okay. As you increase your emitter voltage, what is happening to leakage current? It is decreasing. Okay, once you are here, that means emitter power supply becomes exactly equal to peak voltage. Okay, when both are equal, you can see that at this point reverse current, saturation current has almost reached the positive quadrant. Okay, the first quadrant here. Let's now here think about here. When emitter voltage is larger than the Vp, that means this condition we are analyzing now. Okay, emitter current supply is, you can indicate simply as V instead of writing V. Emitter voltage is very much larger than Vp. So diode will be forward bias. This diode becomes forward bias because here the voltage applied here is going to be much more larger than the voltage which is at the cathode. So because of this, what will happen inside the uni-junction transistor? You can see here, you are increasing voltage further. But what about the voltage across diode junction UJT? That keeps on decreases. Voltage across the UJT keeps decreases. But see the current. Do you think current is decreasing? This the width will tell you the current. This is decreasing, that means voltage is decreasing, but current is not decreasing. You have some current flow. If there is a perfect straight line here, then we can say that current also has been decreasing. Okay, but now here current is not decreasing, current is increasing here basically. This particular point from here till here, you can see that you are increasing voltage further, but the current is, the voltage is decreasing because your voltage across the uni-junction transistor keeps decreasing, but current keeps on increasing. Is it against to the Ohm's law here? You can look at the curve here. Voltage across UJT is decreasing. Current is increasing. Okay. See that voltage is decreasing, current is increasing across the UJT. This particular region is called as negative resistance region. Are you seeing here? Region from till here, voltage across UJT is decreasing, current is increasing. Because of this reason, you can call this region as a negative resistance region. This is one and only device which exhibits a negative resistance region. None of the electronic devices will not exhibit this particular, the region of operation. Okay. There may be different, but here, as you keep on increasing, the voltage, but still voltage across UJT keeps on decreases here, but still current will keep on increases. This will happen until it reaches a point called as a valley current. IV is called as a valley current, and corresponding to that, whatever the voltage we have is called as the valley voltage. Similarly, you can look at here. This point is called as peak voltage, and corresponding to this, the current associated is called as a peak current. There is a peak current here. There is a peak voltage here. Similar to that, we have a peak, the valley current here, and the valley voltage here. And beyond that, even still, if you increase the emitter voltage, you can see that across the UJT, again the voltage will start increasing. Okay, so it will start increasing, and further, as usual, the current also will start increasing. Okay. It reaches some point here, a bottom point, which is close to the x-axis, and further, if you increase your emitter voltage, the current across the UJT starts increasing, and accordingly, voltage also starts increasing, because your curve is moving above. That means voltage is increasing as well as current also starts increasing here. Okay, this kind of, it looks like almost like a sine wave. Not perfectly. If you repeatedly keep on increasing your voltage across UJT, you may get some kind of oscillations like a sine wave. Okay, the best application of this unijunction transistor is it can be used as an oscillator. Vibrations. When you want to have a frequency of oscillations, then you can use this kind of the devices. When you want more oscillations to be generated, at that time we can prefer this. One such application we are going to discuss later on after this characteristics. You can find out here there are once the current reaches the valley, beyond that if you still increase the voltage, again voltage and current both will start increasing, and this particular region is called as a saturation region. In saturation region, voltage and current start increasing. But in negative resistance region, voltage across this particular UJT keeps decreasing, current starts increasing. That region is called negative resistance region. But look at the cutoff region here. There is no question of the positive current here, because there is only current flowing in this cutoff region is a leakage current. Okay. Once the voltage is reached here, VP, leakage current will become zero. When the voltage across SCR decreases, current will start increasing. So this is going to be the behavior of the unijunction transistor. So this is explained by looking at this. You understood this? I will link this with circuit with that of characteristics. Okay. Because as you keep on increasing voltage here, you can see here these 2 points are very important for us here. Once this point exceeds the voltage at this point, then definitely this is going to be forward bias, and across this complete UJT, the voltage decreases and current will start increasing. This particular current, emitter current, start increasing. That's going to be the behavior of unijunction transistors. So we'll take up quickly the application of unijunction transistors.
Get it.
Already I mentioned the major application of this is an oscillator. Plenty of applications are there. Especially you can use this device for controlling the current also. Okay. Especially in power electronic applications. But now we'll discuss one application where I'm going to use UJT as an relaxation oscillator. The application is UJT as a relaxation oscillator. Quickly you can take off this circuit.
बात नहीं कर रहे नहीं बात कर बाकी
This is the UJT based relaxation oscillator, which you can see there is a resistor here, capacitor, and of course there are two more resistors across the base terminals B2 and S plus B1. B2 base terminal, the lower one will be the base terminal, which is B1. Waveforms generated by this circuit is shown here. This is a waveform across capacitor. Take down these two waveforms and circuit. There we written a formula for frequency of oscillation. That formula should be memorized. No need to derive that formula. Okay, let's get started. You can see this circuit diagram. This is one of the applications we are discussing here. There are plenty of applications of UJT. UJT as a relaxation oscillator. For the UJT to be used as relaxation oscillator, here is a circuit diagram which includes a resistor R. This value is usually large value, typically in up to mega ohms you can choose, 1 mega ohm or 1.2 mega ohm. And this R1 is going to be very small value which has been chosen in this application. But of course there is a capacitor and R2 is other elements. UJT plays an important role which works like oscillator in this application. You can see this how this works like an oscillator. Okay, initially when you switch on this power supply, there is a plus V, which is a DC power supply, and for the circuit there is no output. You know, normally for oscillator circuit we don't have any output. Okay, just we have to observe, we don't have input. This has got output, we don't have input for this. You can see that output is seen across capacitor. That means from this point and down, you can observe the oscillations which are generated. And if you observe across these 2 points, you can see these waveforms. This waveform will come to this later on, but before that, let's analyze how do we get it, the waveform shown across the capacitor. Look at here, when the power supply, DC power supply has been given, the capacitor keeps charging. Okay. But before that, you can see that the diode present here, okay, it should be reverse biased. Right? Okay. Initially, when the diode has got sufficient amount of the voltage, this will get power pass. Inside this, there is a diode and equivalent resistances which are showed up. But right now you can see that you can virtually remember that there is a diode inside this. Okay. And also look at that this voltage here keeps charging the capacitor, and it will take its own time to attain this voltage, because immediately the capacitor will not charge to supply voltage. Suppose if I apply 5 volts here,